Hi, my name is Kevin McDonald, and I'm declaring my independence. Independence from what? Why, negative thoughts and energy, of course. Chief among them, hate, division, and fear. You see, I know that we're all one, and together we can solve any problem, save our planet and each other. Please, join me as we come together as one and choose a better way to be. So now, let's begin with my independence report. And right now we are waiting for Natasha, who had problems with her messenger. So we're waiting for her, but at the same time, we go ahead and get on. And Regan is working his magic on
I got it.
His system. You got it now?
Yeah.
All righty then. How are you today, my friend?
I'm fine for a Monday. Great.
Okay, very good. And now, when you get to be our age, Monday is not so bad anymore. At least for me.
Any day is good.
Anywhere that you're above ground, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, Natasha, like I said, we're waiting for, because she had to do something else to get into the room. Somehow her messenger wasn't working. So that gives us the opportunity to talk to my friend Regan. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just fine. It's good. It's a good week. It's really nice here in San Francisco area. The last few days, it's been very warm and nice. Good golf. I'm going to probably go golfing a couple times this week, I hope.
Yeah. It's good to get out and go golfing occasionally if you can.
It really is, yeah. That's the only exercise I get sometimes is just getting out and playing. But I really like it. I'm actually playing better now than I have when I was in my 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Now, did you walk the 18 holes, or do you use a golf cart?
Yeah, no, I make myself walk because
really, that's good.
Some of them are. One of them is like a billy goat course. You know, it's just up and down and up and down, and it's really, really gives me a good workout. But I need to. I had another client on the other side this week, and they were telling her, which I was listening to. Also, she's in her, I think she's 68, and they were telling her she does light work also, and they said, you got to keep your body in good shape to do the work. You know, they're saying they appreciate the work that you, like, you know, people like you and I and Natasha are doing, really appreciate that, and but we all got to keep ourselves healthy, otherwise we're not going to be able to do the work down here.
That's it. Well, that's true. I'm getting the sense of that I need to work on some stuff. So I'm in the process of working on some stuff.
A little at a time.
Exactly. So I'm really hoping. But by the way, do you remember what we were going to talk about this week? Did we have anything planned?
Well, I guess my client didn't call you, did she?
She did, and she said that she wanted to come. Are you talking Kathy?
Wait a minute. She's a new client. Wait a minute.
Oh,
I got a session booked for her in April because she does taxes and things. And I'm seeing her sister to do a Life Between Life session next week, and then Tammy.
Nope, didn't get a call from Tammy.
She's recovering alcoholic and getting spiritual, and I thought, boy, that would be great because I know Natasha knows a lot about that, what she's been going through. And that my client said she didn't, you know, she'd be very happy to talk to people about it because she's her life's really gotten a lot better now since she's been sober for a few months now, you know. And I said, well, that's maybe I'll see if she can come on sometime in the next few weeks or something. Hi, Natasha.
Hello.
Welcome.
Yeah, right when you said her name, you must be magical.
Yeah.
Right when you said her name, she popped on the screen.
Yeah. Yeah, I found out some interesting things. The client that I had was another Newton Institute therapist, and I did a session for her over Zoom, and it was wonderful. I mean, I didn't know it could be done really that easily, but she was, you know, easily went to the state that you need to go. but one of the things we did over there, we asked if we could speak to Michael Newton, and we did. And he said he's not worried, because we said we're carrying on his legacy, and he goes, I don't care about my legacy. That's nothing. You know, like over there, you don't have the ego and all that. He says, look, it's just important that you're doing the work. And then I asked him about Dolores Cannon's as compared to his. He says, again, it doesn't matter. He said, all of the things that you're doing, like what Natasha's doing and you, all the three of us are doing now, the most important thing is that we get the word out that, you know, there's a whole bigger picture that people can kind of be more connected to. And they don't care how it comes to them, through a medium or through Michael's work or whatever. Everybody just talking about it and doing like what we're doing or something is what they want everybody to do. So that was pretty cool, you know, not to see someone with ego, like, well, you know, like it was his work and it was, you know, important there. He doesn't give a hoot about who gets credit for it, you know, so that was really, really neat. She also, she's a follower of Edgar Cayce, you know, he was like the big psychic from the past. And
Right.
we asked to speak to him, and Michael Newton gets up from his chair, and in comes Edgar Cayce and sits down right where he was. And she had a nice little conversation with him. And he's the one, too, that told her, he says, you need to keep, you know, really work on getting your physical body in condition, because he said he neglected to do that. He wanted to help so many people. He did so much stuff. And the energy from all of it is what contributed to him passing away too early. You know, so it was a really cool session, you know.
Yeah.
We talked about COVID. Now, the way they, you know, hopefully on the show, I'll give the results once we get them all in. But if we're having 100 Newton Institute therapists do sessions, switch sessions, and get all this information about COVID and everything, when my client asked about COVID, they said they showed her an image of a pipe, like, you know, water, a big water pipe with clean water. And then all of a sudden showed her how murky and muddy it was. And the image she got was they need to clean out the pipe, you know, and that the COVID and everything that's going on right now was to clean things up. And that the souls that were leaving there's so many souls were ready to go, and we're ready to go to the other side, that, you know, it's okay. You know, all these people sad. He says, you know, it's going to be sad and things like that, but everybody is okay over there, you know, and it just needed to happen. So, and they said they're using the dark to bring the light. You know, I guess you would call the sicknesses and Donald Trump and like that. They're using the dark to expose people to the light. You know, however people want to interpret that.
You know, it's in the work that I'm doing, and I don't know, Natasha, did you catch the first hour of the show yesterday?
I did catch the whole show this last Sunday.
You are just wonderful.
Yes. And I totally agreed with everything that he was saying. You know, we're talking about a man who has had experiences where he's gotten messages from Jesus and that kind of thing. And that was the thing that, you know, I really work on. And even though, you know, I went through a lot of personal stuff the last 2 weeks, but I was always looking for the greater good. Even when somebody was pointing the finger at me, I was always saying, okay, wait a minute. This isn't about me. It's the bigger picture. I'm just one of the pieces of the pawn in the situation. And I wasn't taking it personally, but it was a personal experience that my body was going through. My mind was going through. My inner child sometimes was going through. There was these different parts of me that needed to upgrade or shift a little bit. I'm going to use the word, but that's a better word, shift a little bit to become the greater good. And my experience was helping. I mean, I'm hearing through my negative-ishness that came across on you know, what I was doing Mondays and Wednesdays. It came across as negative, but yet it wasn't negative, because I heard so many people who said, boy, the way you walked through that, the way that you interacted with that. Yes, you had moments where tears were coming down, but then you walked through it and you were always looking at the better picture. You weren't calling somebody negative. You weren't doing negative things towards people. You were always bringing the greater good out of this. And actually that helped me to come through this better. This helped me navigate it through it better. And with that there's always these steps. And like I told the person who I was that there was a little bit of conflict with on Friday. I said, I'm out here. Destruction sometimes you have to have destruction to have creation. You have to have that, Shiva effect. And the Shiva effect is destruction with creation. And whenever we can work on that, knowing that sometimes you have to have that kind of that breakdown to rebuild. It's never necessarily a negative thing. It can turn out to be positive, but it's the perception we have. And I always have, like, there's the song that, I had this image, Harry Potter, that there was this Harry Potter. I don't know if anybody watches the Harry Potter or knows the Harry Potter story, but there's a chess match that Ron plays, where if he does the wrong move, the head of the piece gets broken apart. It gets lopped off. So I was seeing that every move I was making was like a chess game, but it was my integrity and my intention. I had to keep checking every email I sent. What was my intention, my integrity? And my integrity is always holding love, and then I had the Shinedown song of how do you love? After it all comes through, how did you love? That's going to be our story, is how did we love? And that is always my intention, is how do I love through this process, which means sometimes it's tough love, but yet it always has that love tension. And that's one thing that the first gentleman, and I forget his name and I apologize.
Brian,
yeah. Sutherfield. Yeah, that like he was saying that's one thing that Jesus always said is that it's not about being the negative. The negative is here to help us grow to the positive. And, like for me, not being able to eat certain food, me not being able to eat certain food is actually helping my body to be healthier. So the negative that I still want to eat, let's say chocolate with nuts in it, I can't do that anymore. Well, chocolate with nuts, how much did I eat that? Well, that wasn't healthy for me. So that negative thing was actually bringing my body to a greater good, so that, I didn't keep eating those bad habits. Yeah. And we have to look at that perception, because that's what the greater good is going to be. And that's where that enlightenment is going to be.
Well, and that's also what he's, Regan, just your point about when they were talking about, when Dr. Newton was talking about, I don't care who gets the credit for it. It's not anything about that. It's about doing the work. The validation of that came yesterday when I was talking with Brian, in that he said that what they're hoping for and what they're looking for, and he said that he was shown the world, and he was shown lights, and those lights were people, and he said all these people are turning on, or they're becoming enlightened, and those will end up changing the world. Doesn't have to be everybody, but a certain tipping point, and that will change the world. So he was very much validating what you were getting from Michael Newton.
Yeah. So like they're all working together up there, for the great, for to try to help us human beings, get better.
We don't need
it. Well, that's good. So, and also they said that Michael Newton said there's never been a better time than the time right now, that there's so much interest in the, people are going to think of their higher self, their what's their purpose, their mission, things like that. So that's really, really good. So, we're just doing our part, and, I'm just thinking of the different podcasts and things I've been on. There's quite a few that have to do with spirituality and mediums and things like that. So it's, the more that it's like hopefully pretty soon it'd be like in LA, where they got a donut shop on every corner. I think they have the most donut shops of any city in the world is LA, and so now there'll be people like us just all over the place, and so it'll be common people can get help, and and we can all do our part.
And that's what everybody is here to do, is just to do the best you can, and to do your part, and to live life as authentically as you can. So I think it's great. And by the way, thank you for listening to the entire show yesterday. That was awfully nice of you.
Well, I knew that there was things that, there's many times where I have knowing of so much that sometimes when I hear somebody say a word, it's like, oh, there's the word I can help somebody with in the everyday work. And that's the thing is that my soul, I have so many lifetimes that I grab information from that sometimes it gets lost in the transition of that lifetime to my words to come out here. And there's so many things that I just have this inner calling that I want to bring love and light to this planet. And that means that showing the light, the flashlight through the destruction for creation to happen. And we never know what that's going to be like. You know, it's just going to be one of those things. Like I had this image when I was, before I had my kids, where I was walking across the street to my job, and all of a sudden I had this image of two children with me, a taller girl and a shorter male, and a man and woman. And then around me, I just saw destruction. I mean, it was, you know, these doomsday movies that you see. It was all destruction. And I was like, okay, I know that I'm supposed to do something here. So am I supposed to still have kids, even though I know that might be a scenario that comes up? Because sometimes we're shown something in our dreams or in our knowings that isn't necessarily going to come true, but it's a possibility, and it could be a metaphor for something. You know, it could be that it was a metaphor for my life because, you know, I was married to an alcoholic, and that was pretty destructionable through much of my children's life, childhood, you know, being married to a man who was depressed and drinking all the time, and things didn't come over so well. So with that could have been the metaphorical, you know, destruction thing. Well, I can tell you now that when I started out, I had two males, and I was like going, well, there goes that image. Well, now that my kids are older, that I actually have my youngest decided that she was transgender, and so now she's a she. So now she's taller than my boy, and actually they're in the same image that I saw as I was walking across the street to my job. But yet at the same time, there's greenery and everything around. So there might have been something that we all did as a universe there's enough of us that saw light in the midst of dark through this process. And, you know, that's one thing that this whole last 2 weeks taught me is how am I walking with my integrity? How am I walking with my love? How am I walking forward no matter what is in front of me? Because that's going to get me to that next step of where my journey is going to be in life. And, you know, if anybody can do that, is just knowing that anything that is perceived negative, it could be the beginning of something wonderful, but it has to, like any seed, has to be put into dirt. And some seeds are actually put into weedy dirt. You know, there's a bunch of weeds around it. You know, birds plant seeds all the time by dropping them, you know, and they never know, but it could be in the most weediest area. But then there's these beautiful flowers that come out of these weeds, or trees that grow out of these wonderful weeds. And you know, you just never know what's going to grow out of something.
Yeah. You know, what I've learned through, well, in the spiritual belief system that I followed that opened me up to all these things. There's initiations that you get occasionally, and first you get it on the inner. In other words, I'd have a dream and I'd be there having an initiation, and then a few days later in the mail, I'd get a slip and say, "You're ready for your next, you know, outer initiation." And that proved to me that they're working together here, you know. But the thing that happens, and they always warn you, is that when you get a new initiation, just be prepared that your life's going to change. And sometimes that means losing a lot of what you have. And it's very difficult for some people because they get this new initiation, all of a sudden their life falls apart, and it's difficult. But it's just the fact that the old things don't fit your state of consciousness anymore. And matter of fact, that's another segue into the client that I had this week. One of her questions was, she had a person that just appeared in her life a few years ago, and this person just took a liking to her, and they were going and doing things, and they were just like, she said, oh my gosh, it was wonderful. I had this really close friend, and then just as abruptly, that friend just cut her off, and she didn't understand like what's going on, you know. Well, they told her on the other side that person just came to kind of wake her up a bit, and it was just a short little contract, you know, to open her heart. And the fact that she's losing some other friends too is because she was in a higher state now. And then when she's on the other side in her soul group, there was some other spirits that were there, the energies of them. They didn't come forward to talk to her, but she knew that these were some people that were there in, you know, like it's like a play. This is going to be in the second half of her play. There are people, characters that come into her life's play, you know. So she was excited about that. So yeah, you know, you got to get rid of the old to accept the new sometimes. Like you get new furniture, you can't pile it on top of the old furniture. You got to move the old furniture out, you know, give it to Goodwill or sell it or something and put in that nice new furniture, you know. So people out there that are listening, if you're going through hard things, it's always about a lesson. I mean, you just have to kind of, you know, go through it with a good attitude. And Natasha, then all this had happened to you too. Didn't that make you feel good? It was a sense you had a test and you passed the test.
Yeah, that actually, and that was the thing that almost the first moment that this all started happening is that, and I've practiced this language, is that, what is this here to teach me? That is my go-to mantra. What is this here to teach me? Because that makes me fall out of victimhood into purposefulness. And everything has a purpose. And so me being in purposefulness already sets me forth into motion. And even though I was still tearful and going through things, but this was my mindset, was what is this going to be? And I went, okay, walk my talk. This is a good practice. My integrity was being called on, and my love was being called on. And it was like, and I, in a way, it was being challenged. You know, do I still have it? But, you know, me being the enlightened one that I, without ego, say I am, because I am that, because that's what everybody tells me. Your integrity, you know, when I mentioned to my coworkers, you know, I said, my integrity is being kind of challenged a little bit. And they go, why? You walk with integrity like 140%. So it's not like, I'm not saying this with ego. It's because people are telling me this all the time, that, you know, the way you love, the way you have integrity. I sit down with a new client and they don't question if I'm going to be chattering it to somebody else. They know I'm not, you know, because that's my integrity. Well, I had to really make sure I walked it. And I can tell you that, you know, everything comes in threes. I had 3 meetings with the people that I was interacting with. The first one didn't go so well. The second one was the destruction to creation. And the third one was the rebuilding. And that rebuilding was, I was even told, did you take counseling classes? Because you sure are a good counselor about going through. I was actually counseling the other person who was my supervisor through this. You know, it was like, it wasn't ego, but it was just that moment of, I'm walking my talk. I've practiced enough to walk my talk. And that made me feel good in a way, that it was like, oh, I did pass that test, like you said, Regan.
Yeah. I'm hoping to get to the point where, and I have a conflict of some sort, that without that I can just do it with love and integrity, and hopefully not have to go through the inner fighting and turmoil of like, oh, I'd rather be saying this, or if I only could do this, you know, or, whoa, let me give it to him. But just to let all that go and just to do and say what needs to be said. I mean, sometimes when you see movies or plays or something, when people have that certain integrity and they just tell it like it is with integrity and everything, and they make it look so easy, and we love watching those kind of movies because we all want to be that way, you know, but it's a little hard sometimes. So it's getting easier for me, but still, you can tell I got a little ways to go. So
yeah, but you're recognizing it and you're working on it. So that's
Yeah, I know that. Right, Natasha. I mean, we're just, like for people out there that are dealing with issues and you're trying to have more patience or to be more kind, just practice it. And when you fall off the wagon, just get back up out of the mud and get back on the wagon and move forward and try it again. Because we all backslide a little bit here and there too. So.
Well, I had 20 years of practicing with an alcoholic. So that was every moment I had time to practice. So with that, when you have that, the difference between me and somebody else is just a little bit more practice time. And it's not anything that nobody else can do. And it is about having the intention of, okay, this slipped me. I've had people that undermine me like I call it like snot running down a kid's nose. It's like it would undermine me so fast, these two people. And then I got to the point where I started witnessing myself more during these conversations.
Yeah, where you were kind of like beside yourself, watching yourself.
Yeah, and being a witness of yourself, really practicing that. Oh, what am I saying? What are they saying? And then I went, oh, wait a minute, they're undermining me. Oh, wait a minute, time to stop. And I would do that after the conversation. Then I got better at after that conversation, during the conversation. Oh, wait a minute, I'm starting to notice this at the beginning of the conversation. It's like, and I got to the point finally where I started saying, hey, you know what? I'm not liking where this conversation is going, and I love you so much that I want to do a better conversation. Can we stop and push the reset button? I got better at that because I practice it better.
Good. That's good. Matter of fact, that's a good exercise for people, is just to start practicing. Like even now, anybody watching this or watches it in the future, if you just in your mind's eye right now, just pretend that you're standing next to yourself, looking at yourself right now, and there's a shift that happens. I mean, it's you can actually do that, and when you do that, it's almost like you have like you got your own, like you're your own coach, because that part that's standing next to you, it represents your higher self. That has a lot more information and it's bound to keep you in check more. So before you get angry with somebody, you're really angry or something, just stand next to yourself and look at yourself and say, do you really want to say what you're about to say? What about all the repercussions that's going to happen? Do you really want that? Or do you want to say something that's more kind? So you just like having it's in a way, it's that good old, devil on the shoulder and the angel on the shoulder here. And you're going back and forth and back and forth. Well, if you just do it with your higher self, it's the same kind of idea, but it really works. I did a comedy show up, where was it, in South Dakota at somewhere. And in the middle of the night, I was coming home close to where they have all the cutouts in the mountains of Mount Rushmore. And it was like, 2 or 3 in the morning, and I'm going along the road and I hit a deer. And the only thing that got me through it, I mean, it was like, I was surprised how much shock that I was that I hit a deer. I mean, it was amazing. I started bawling my eyes out, and yelling and screaming in the car. It was weird. But the thing that got me through it, all of a sudden, it happened naturally. My higher self or whatever was kind of there and was like saying, it's okay. You're going to get through this, just take some deep breaths and then go back and see if, there's anything you could do for the deer or something, So I went, wow, that was pretty good. At the time when I was falling apart, somehow my higher self took over, or this other part of me, and calmed me down. And so I went, wow, that's really cool to be able to do that, and that got me through it. Okay. But that was a really learning lesson there too, that to take the life of something that just, you think of Bambi or this poor deer, and, couldn't have been helped. I mean, I had about less than 2 seconds probably to react, which was not enough to, like, what? Boom, there it was, and then had the poor hair of that deer in my bumper for a couple of months there before I got it all fixed. So, and I went back and I couldn't find the deer. So apparently it limped off into the dark somewhere, but not a fun experience. I don't even like killing. We have a rat. We live by a creek, so we have rats occasionally, but I finally did get that. I got that humane rat catcher, and put some cheese in there. Going to catch that, and then I'll take it a few miles away and let it out in a creek somewhere or something. So far I haven't caught one.
Are there any neighbors you don't like that you could lay on?
With the rats, I mean, like I think maybe we talked about this before, but I grew up next to American River College. That's where I went to got junior college for 2 years, and they had the National Rat Decathlon there every year, and people would train rats come from all over the world, and they would put all the tricks that they taught the rats, and they're just petting them. They're just like their dogs, and I got to see them in that vein, which was kind of good for me to see. They're just innocent creatures doing their thing, and we don't like them in our space, so we kill them, so.
Yeah, that's a shame. That's a shame. So, I had a question and I just lost it.
That's okay. If I can, because this is a good segue too, that, many times we have animals that say that I'm willing to give you a good message. So like a deer, especially female deer, it's that feminine side of being gentle with ourselves. That if we've had a harshness, a self beating up and that kind of stuff, if you look back, maybe you were in that moment of circling around in negativity, Regan, or there was something going on, or you're rushing too much, and that kind of thing. Well, the deer was there to give you that message.
Yeah.
That, being careful. Like, I was in a car where we ran over a coyote and noticing which way it was coming, it was coming from north to south. And then, then knowing what coyote represents, about jokesters, about making sure that people aren't being tricksters to you. And it was just interesting to feel the energy of that coyote giving itself to us as a totem. I also did that with an owl where I was on the freeway, but for now, owl is my totem, and I see a lot of things by the vision of owl. That clear vision through the darkness. That he was able to give me his energy, his soul. I'm going to just call it soul feature, so that he can be my totem to be able to walk through the life I do. Plus the messages of what owl is. Owl is great medicine. It's also about death and rebirth.
Yeah.
Imagine that. That's the story of my life. Anybody who follows my life knows I have a lot of them.
How did you run over an owl?
It hit my windshield.
Oh, wow. Because those are big. I'm surprised it didn't break your windshield.
And me too. It actually, it fell off. But at the same time, though, it was like, whew, and it was amazing to have that. And that's one thing that we need to look at, is when an animal makes a hard impact, is that something that we need to either look at, is it turning into a totem for us, or is it that we're not getting the messages of the universe and we need it in our face?
Yeah.
Especially like sometimes when we have car accidents, if it's in front of us, it's like, are we paying attention to what's coming to us? Or if it's in the back end, are we paying attention too much to our back, or we're not paying attention to our lessons? And we need to start paying attention to our lessons so we can walk forward. There's these things that happen to us for, I don't want to call them reasons, but the interactions, it's like, ask the questions. So Kevin, did you have your question?
No, I'm just listening. That's very good. But Regan, I wanted to ask you.
Well, yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Do you want to?
Well, just to finish what you were saying, I was saying I think we all need to expand a little bit our awareness that things happen in our life for a reason, even sometimes the most minute thing. Now, I had a spiritual master one time tell me, he says, sometimes milk just spills, but when something does, just test it first to see if something's trying to tell you something, trying to guide you in some way, or trying to teach a lesson. But he says sometimes milk just spills and there's nothing there, but to there's reasons for that things are happening in your life. And
it's interesting when you then throw in the concept of free will, on how that works, and you come across with something that is different than what you thought it would be, because free will changed it and stuff. That's I just thought I'd throw that in there. I don't know. Yeah.
What I wanted to say before I forget too, about when somebody you're with has an addiction of some sort, we always seem to think that this is a lesson that other person has to go through, but the person who's with that person has just as much of a lesson to learn as the person going through the addiction.
And she's head.
Yeah. In other words, just it's a two-way street there. There's you're having to go through what you need to go through to learn, and that person's going through there. So we don't need to get all high and mighty like, oh, I don't have anything to do with this. There's always something there that's for you too to learn. So that's why people, Al-Anon's really good. That client I talked to this week that's, is really loving going through a 12-step program because of the fact that, making amends for things is awesome, and kind of surrendering that there is some higher power out there that can give you some help. There's, a lot of good things in that.
Well, and like the free will thing, I always kind of go with the image that there's no mistake, and then you can make an individual choice to go here or here. That's your choice, the higher or the lower. Neither's wrong or right, because then that turns into a no mistake or no mistakes, because those are going to be experiences that you go through, and these are experiences, and then you make choices and you can go to another no mistake or no mistake or no mistake, no mistake. It's like there's these no mistakes that always happen, but we have choices. Do we go to the lighter side or the heavier side? It's not necessarily good or bad. It just, if we make a poorer choice, like if we choose to steal instead of just walking by that thing we really, really want, or we pull out the couple of cents that we have in our pocket and pay for it instead, those are the differences between no mistakes or no mistakes.
I wonder if, I haven't Googled this, but I just thought, I wonder if someone's probably figured it out. On an average day, how many choices does each person make on an average? Because we don't, it's like, okay, from the minute you wake up, it starts choice. Do I do this? Do I do that? And you do it without even thinking. But every choice you make, in a sense, can be put on the plus side of things or the negative side, in a sense. And you get to the end of the day, and it'd be neat if we all had scorecards and we could go like, ooh, this was a rough day, or man, I did really good today.
Yeah, so, if you can modify your choices and to see, because free will, you can end up by the end of your lifetime, you can end up in a completely different place than you really thought that you were planning on ending up when you started out.
Yeah.
I.e., the contracts we make when we're coming into this world, this lifetime, this body form, and then what does that contract come out to look like by the time that we're in our 30s? And then, that's why I tell people we can rewrite our contracts at any time, but you have to have the intention of wanting it to happen.
Yeah.
Like me rewriting my contract with my husband, it was something that I had to hold sturdy with, saying that, no, we're done with that story. So every time we started circling around to another thing that happened again, I was like, wait a minute, I saw this before. Aren't we done with this? Aren't we done with this? And this last scenario that I went through with him wonderfully said, we came through it, with smiles on our faces, because it was like, okay, we've done this before. What is our intention now? We're not going to circle back around to old habits. We're going to create new ones. How can we do that? By just checking in on ourselves. Oh, wait a minute. There's another night that kind of triggered the old way. Well, what can we do different to make it happen different again? It's that double checking ourselves, creating that new pattern. But, it's that, what am I going to do different?
Yeah, as we say on the show, I know I've said it a couple times, but just bears repeating again, is, you can't fix a problem with the same consciousness that created it. So we always have to figure, even if it's a slight change in the way you look at things or do things, that's an improvement, because then you can fix the problem, and, we do that subconsciously all the time, or we don't realize that our problem got fixed, and we look back and we go, oh, that's because I did something different this time, or that's because I made the positive choice this time instead of the negative choice. But I know that, especially dealing with a lot of clients, they just feel hopeless. Like sometimes you get in a situation and your mind is saying, there's no way out of here. I just can't move. And that's when, the love of others comes in, like just having someone to talk to, or getting some help or whatever, just, just to help you shift your course slightly. And that's all that you need to do sometimes. So, thank God most of us have friends or people that can help us through the difficult times, or be patient with us, like you being patient with your husband. And, I had people be patient with me as I was going through, but the fact that they saw me trying to do the work, they had a lot more patience with me, and that made me feel good too, having their support. And then you get through it. I mean, you get to the other side of it and you go, what was that all about? Like, it was no big deal, once you do the work.
Yeah. And it could be, the work doesn't have to be treacherous. That's self-inflicted. It could be easy. I always ask for grace and ease. It's like this whole thing, even though, like me that Wednesday where I came in and I got punched in the stomach in a fragment, or in a, metaphorical way, that, it's like, but actually I could have been fired. Somebody else, it could have been worse. And just because I asked for grace and ease, that I know that in that moment, even in that hour, I went from having a breath that I was having a hard time getting to breathing. It was like, because there was that moment of grace and ease to be able to say, okay, that happened. Now it's moving on. Okay.
Yep, that's interesting. You've had such a couple of things last week that really got to you, and I'm glad you're coming out of it now.
That's me. That's me. It's like, like when I found out my uncle had Lou Gehrig's disease right after my mom passed away 2 years before that of Lou Gehrig's disease. And, as I was talking to the medical doctor about it, I just sunk to the floor and I started crying. It was like, because I just didn't want to go through it again. And being the only grandchild, only child, that my uncle, my mom's brother, it was falling on me to take care of him again after 2 years. And then what did I do? I got up and I called my husband and I said, I'm going to Tacoma. And off I drove, and it was one of those things that sometimes we just got to know life is going to hit us. But what we need to do, though, is just know that it's going to work out okay. It may not be something that we want to walk through. It's not something that we want to navigate through. But yet at the same time, though, I can tell you everything that I walked through in those years gave me the tools and gave me the path to know that I can walk through pretty much anything now. It may take my legs out from underneath me, but my legs catch me again.
Yeah.
It's not, and it just takes me a moment sometimes. Like for me, that Wednesday that I had a very hard time, I had 4 minutes to walk from one room to the other and start. But if I would have had that half an hour, I would have been okay. I would have been better. I would have been a little bit still wrung out, but I would have been better. It's just that moments where you just kind of have to say, okay, what am I going to do about this? And we got to work through it. But like I was talking to a client of mine who was a teenager and she was wanting to not live anymore. And I said, you know what, sweetie, if I listened to that 14-year-old and wouldn't listened and not been here, would I be here now talking with you, having this conversation, saying it's worth living?
How's she doing now?
She's doing better.
Good. Now, did you tell the authorities, or did you tell her parents, or any of that?
Her mom, they know. They knew. And I knew that that there was some other things we were working on, that for one, she lived on a corner street, so she was getting everybody's energy, and she's an empath. So a lot of her negative energy wasn't hers. It was the cars driving by. And so with that there were some other things that we worked on and other knowings that we worked on. And so her story isn't that same story anymore. She might still have moments, but yet I'm really thinking that really touched her, that if I would have listened back then, I wouldn't have touched everyone I'm touching now.
True.
Because I didn't even know I was going to be this person when I was 14. I was just thinking that the other day, that, when I was 14 and in high school, I took an F because I couldn't stand in front of people to talk.
Yeah.
And now I'm more comfortable on screen and in front of people than I am almost talking to my dog. It's like, it's weird how life switches around when we keep walking forward.
Yeah.
And you always had that in you. You just didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In college, especially when I was 19 and 20, I realized I was afraid, I was afraid to talk in front of people. And so something in me made me sign up for a speech class. And boy, that really, really helped, because I was so scared to get in front of it. But during the course of the semester, we had to give 3 different talks, I think, get up in front of everybody. And man, that was tough, but something was pushing me, some inner thing to just get over it, so that I could, I could be up in front of people. And what a nice thing that was, is finally to give me a little bit of confidence that I could talk in front of people. So.
And you do very, very well for a guy who can't talk in front of people.
Well, I'm getting better at it for sure. Well, that was part of me, being an entertainer for 30 years, doing 4,000 shows. I did it all over the country, in malls, fairs, casinos, corporate events and things like that. But still, I'd walk off stage and I'd go back into my shell a bit. But it was fun. Like when an introvert gets to play extrovert for a while, it's real exhilarating. Like, oh, it's like some people at Halloween, they get to dress up and be a different character and act silly or do things that they would normally do. I think that's what's good about Halloween, is people get to pretend, or even in the acting, when I had all these different roles and everything. And it was always fun to take on a role of, in a way, I'd say, well, that's neat because that's not me. But you get into the role and you go, well, I've got that in me, whether it's to be evil or good or whatever, I had a short film I did one time where I was the parent of a young girl who, my wife and I were genetically clowns. In other words, this was a world where clowns are just born, they don't have to put on makeup or anything. It's already there when you're born. And we had a daughter, and she had pink hair and had these circles on her face. And it was about her coming of age at school, where, people were making fun of her because she looked different and everything like that. And then finally, towards the end, some things happened. And because she was putting on, regular people's wigs and covering up she had little round red spots here, and she was covering them up so she could look like the other kids. And at the end of the thing, she's taking off her wig, showing her pink hair, going to school, just being herself. And it was kind of a neat little thing about how we all have to accept who we are, and be happy with who we are.
We learn more about you as you talk more all the time. When did this movie take place?
So it was a short film done in Hollywood through a film school. And I did think 20 or 25 of them down there. It was really neat because you could go for the casting. They might pay you $50 and that's about it. But you get to be the lead. You get, really juicy parts where you get to do something. But the films are usually, maybe 20 minutes at the longest. A lot of times they're 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, where they tell a whole story, middle, beginning, and end. And I got hooked on these short films. It was really great. But it's really good because it gave the actual actor, gave you a chance to actually act. Because the other stuff I did, even though when I got my Screen Actors Guild card, was mostly extra work that I did in a whole lot of movies and little bit parts, in the bigger movies and commercials. Sometimes you could audition and do some commercials, but to actually make it in Hollywood is like, like my agent told me, I said, well, just get me some of these 5-line parts in like a CSI movie. CSI, they had all the different shows and there's all these different suspects and things. And my agent said, Regan, there's about 2,500 guys your age trying to get that one part, that one 5-line part. So she said, just if it comes along, it comes along. So that's what we'll have to talk about that someday. I'll tell you about Hollywood and all of the myths and the boy, I was right there in the middle of it for 12 years. And the good, the bad, and the ugly,
It's not the perception that is shown on TV, is it?
No. And I just feel sorry for these people that, get up from the middle of Kansas somewhere, scrape their money together. They're going to be a star in Hollywood, and a few of them do. But it's like winning the lottery. They got to know that going in. Most of them just, some of them end up on the street, a lot of them do.
Now, the Screen Actors Guild, how many members does it have these days?
Boy, I just saw that the other day. I just got a thing in the mail from them, and they gave me the whole season of where is it here? I don't have a DVD player anymore because we just watch everything online. It was on Apple TV, something called Lanto or something. Lanto, I don't know. It's supposed to be a comedy, and it's supposed to be up for award. Oh, maybe I didn't look at the Golden Globe results today because it was busy last night. But maybe it won some awards or something. But there's a lot of wonderful people in Hollywood, and then there's this. Oh, I know what it was. We had a person coming over that had something to do with the documentary that just came out on Woody Allen and Mia Farrow. Have you seen that yet?
No.
Every radio station I turned to, they were talking about it, and they just had the second installment, and it's about the sexual abuse that Woody Allen did to the one of the young children there, and it's done very, very well. But people on the radio, there's people taking both sides. Again, it's just if you say, we can't say anything bad about Woody Allen, he's this great boom, 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 but oh boy, there's a lot of, it's done very well, and it's kind of toast for him, now. But anyway, she was one of the ones they consulted for the movie because she's a therapist, and she, Patty is on the board of her. It's, I want to say CJE. It's about getting justice for women in custody battles because the statistics and everything show that the men are favored, that even though there's proof of them being abusers, the courts order the children to be with them anyway. And some of the horror stories that children have gotten grown up now and talk about when the judge made them go to their dad and the dad would abuse them. And because it was like the good old boys club, the judges and things. And when you get all the statistics, actually Angelina Jolie just donated like $1 million to their cause. And Patty, my wife's on the board, where they're trying to make this awareness of what's going on. So anyway, we just got to watch the movie, and Kathleen was her name, Kathleen Russell, just a wonderful woman who just effortlessly is trying to help other women through custody battles with the courts, to make sure that it's fair. So
that's really cool. By the way, Regan, more comes out about you all the time that we don't know about. This is interesting.
My secret, but not so secret life.
Well, but you hobnob with some rich and famous people down there.
Yeah, well, there's I did 2 movies where I was like 2 feet all day from like Leonardo DiCaprio, where I was an extra, but we call it, everybody says back to one, like Scorsese would come out and be right there and he'd be talking to him. And since I'm 2 feet away from him, so we're standing there between takes, just all I can do is look at him and smile, because if you talk to him and someone sees you, then you're fired immediately. So, because the actors are doing their work and they don't want anybody, distracting them from it. So we're not allowed to talk to him. But he was really kind. He was really nice. And then I actually did a movie with him, Hoover, and I actually got a part in that where I was the lawyer for the first part of the movie that was he was playing, he wasn't in Hoover's young life. He was like an attorney for something, and they were trying to get people kicked out that were dissidents. And this was a Russian woman that was a communist and trying to talk bad about America, and I was her lawyer. So Clint Eastwood was our director all day, so he would come up to me, and the only direction he gave me was look lawyerly, because I didn't have. So in the movie, I'm there for about 2 or 3 seconds. Just I'm right next to her, in the movie, and she's got the words, but but I got paid better that day because I was featured in that. So, but it was neat. Like Clint Eastwood was just, what a kind guy. And he never said action. He would always say, start. And then he would go, stop. He had this gravelly voice, you know, and he would say, start, stop. That's what he would say, you know. But, and DiCaprio was outside smoking cigars during in the middle. I know he opened the door for me to go out to lunch one time. He goes, that was nice of him instead of me opening the door for him. So it was, you know, it was a good experience down there. But again, too, talk about the Me Too movement. And I look back now, and I was in I don't need to keep going on about me, but it is interesting in a way. Being a spiritual person, you know, I went down to Hollywood. I've been a comedian for 30 years, and I thought, I'll just go to Hollywood and it'll be easy. You know, whole new ball game. It was whole new things to learn and everything, and it was very difficult for me. So I finally, I just said to God, I said, whatever comes along, I'm going to take. I don't care what it is. 2 days later, I get cast in this movie where Jesus gets hit by a bus. Yeah. I thought there's some iron. It's like, I didn't even know that till I was there. And it was this story about Jesus coming back. You know, he's returned, and he gets taken out by a bus. You know? So my pay was, I got like, I think $10 and a bologna sandwich for lunch. And then I was standing on the street as an extra, you know, and they're doing that, you know, so, but then all of a sudden it started, and I started getting, the next part, I was a hitman, and I had 2 lines in the movie, and these kids were walking down the tracks, and they just tagged something. They were these, from a Hispanic gang, and they tagged something. And they see me, and I'm right in front of them in this black coat in the dark. And they say, is there a problem? And I think I said, you. And then I shot one and killed him. And that was the beginning of the movie about this 2 brothers that were taggers. And yeah, that's on. It's a full feature movie, but I at least had a couple lines in there. I think I just said you or something and shot him. You know?
At least you got to shoot somebody, isn't that exciting?
That was kind of. We filmed it in the middle of the night, guerrilla style. And so because in Hollywood, you got to have permits for everything, but a lot of them don't have the money. So they do it guerrilla style. They just look around, nobody's around. They go, okay, everybody set up the lights. And we set up, we're out in the middle of nowhere, and the cops came, and they just gave them a warning. So we packed everything up, and then the cops went away. So then we put everything back and filmed it again, you know? So, yeah.
You were naughty. It wasn't you. You were just an extra or a small bit. But no, you know, because the reason I asked about the Screen Actors Guild is when I was looking at it way back when in the 70s, there were like 25,000 members of the Screen Actors Guild. And for those, and you can talk to them about this more than I can, but for those that don't understand how that works, in order to get into the Screen Actors Guild, you have to have a talking part in a movie, as I understand it. And but in order to get a talking part in a movie, you have to be part of the Screen Actors Guild. So how did you get your card?
Yeah, well, because I qualified for it, and I didn't even know it for almost a year, and I could have had it even earlier, but I didn't realize. I was in a couple of movies where not enough union people showed up. So just, you know, usually that's not a problem, but all of a sudden they would go, hey, you, and come over here. And one of them was National Treasure 2 with
with Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage, right. And so they said, well, these 2 people didn't show up, so you're being grandfather, you know, not grandfathers. That's what happened. They grandfathered me in. But for 2 days, because you had to have three certificates that showed that you were, you know, unionized or that you did union work. And so they made me up to look like the 1800s. And I'm in the first scene is Booth, who's wanting to kill Lincoln. He's walking through this bar to, to talk to the other conspirators about killing Lincoln. And I'm just sitting at this bar with this long beard. It was really cool. It really felt like 1800s because the costuming and everything had, and it was done at Universal Studios, and they put dirt all over the streets, you know, they're paved streets, but they had 2 or 3 streets where it's nothing but dirt, and they put horse and buggies, and and everything. And when you walked out there, you just felt like you were in 1800s. I mean, everything was so authentic, you know. It was pretty cool. But then I did a stilt walking thing in Hauser. Oh gosh, I forget what it was. But all I had to do is they had me on stilts, and there was a party at this, you know, for the main character, and I had to walk through the party on stilts. And apparently they gave me, because they had to be union, so they gave that to me. So I had those 3 certificates, and I found out a year later, and I went, oh my God, I've already got them, you know?
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, just kind of lucked out. But then it cost me $3,500 to join. And then the work dried up because you can't work non-union, and there's just not enough work. So it's like a catch-22, you know?
Oh, wow. Wow. Natasha, so what do you think about anything?
What do I think about anything? I'm thinking that we're at these big crossroads of what are we going to do? Well, perception, love for self, love for others, and just keep walking forward. You never know what, if you think positive or think, oh crap, this is ending. Oh, but what can be the next step in my life? You know, it's like, be in the moment of what can be. You never know what those crossroads can bring you to. It's just thinking out the box sometimes helps, but we all are going to go somewhere. We just
Yeah.
got to keep walking through those crossroads.
A lot of people that come to me for the life between life experience are people in their 60s that are retired, and now they're thinking, now what? You know, they've been doing their job their whole life, and all of a sudden I'm telling them, I said, well, it's great that you come to me, because now when they go to the other side, they get some hints. But I'll tell you, so far, everyone that's asked, it's all been about being of service.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, to do something for humanity, that they have all these years left. And whether it's something simple, you know, or to be in some sort of organization or something that's helping move the planet forward. So that's pretty cool, you know, that they're, you know, retired people. They're not, you know, maybe they're retired from their job, but they're not retired from life.
No,
You know,
they're elders. They're elders now. We're
like me,
all
yeah.
yeah, it's the eldership. What does the elders need to do? Guide the youngers. And that sometimes just means keep walking forward. It
Yeah.
means finding your life. I've taught more in my life by not teaching. You
Yeah.
know, by just walking and being, that you just never know who's watching. And just be the elder. You know, like the other day I was, you know, undoing my groceries on the cart, and there was this one young man who was standing there. I said, do you have anything? And he goes, yeah, I'm going to buy one thing. I said, go ahead. You know, and he was in his, you know, maybe 21, 22, you know, and he goes, are you sure? And I go, yeah. And actually gave me more time to get my cart unemptied, you know, that, you know, and that eldership of just saying to the younger, you know, go on, be, you never know what that was going to do for him later. You
Yeah.
know, somebody being kind. We never know where our eldership can help our youngership.
Yeah, and matter of fact, I had a learning lesson in that one time, because I remember, you know, being in line and there's someone behind me, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I should let them go ahead, but I start counting the number of items they have, and thinking, well, maybe not. That might take too long. And then finally, over the years, it's just like, oh, just go ahead. Doesn't matter if they have a whole cart or whatever, you know, just to do it for somebody sometime. But I remember that funny thing. Well, I'm going to let them go ahead, but wait a minute now. They've got, I don't know, they got a little too. And so sometimes I wouldn't, you know.
Yeah,
But
well, and that means timing, our own individual timing. But you know, it's
yeah,
just those little moments when we can do kindness. We never know where eldership can help the eldership can help the youngership.
yeah, you know, just a little thing that really helped me sometimes when I started practicing kindness was like I'm at the bank opening the door, and there's usually we usually have, you know, we see somebody coming, and if they're within a certain distance, we don't hold the door. You know, we go, oh, they're far enough back, and you go in. But watch the smiles on someone's face when they're just getting out of their car and you're at the door, and they see you're at the door, and you wait 30 seconds for them to walk up to there to open the door for them, and how they smile, and somehow that smile, it was got to be fun to do for a while, because I thought I got more out of it than they did. You know, just seeing that smile, that someone would wait for them for 30 seconds to open the door for them. just to do something nice. So that's just a little exercise. Anybody watching this out there trying to learn to be kind, just start with little things. And then your subconscious is going to get on board, and you'll be surprised how kind you become.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we've been doing it. This was a fast hour, by the way.
It sure was.
And stuff. So Natasha, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
You can reach me at angelicclarifications.com or Natasha at angelicclarifications.com. The last one's my email, and my website is angelicclarifications.com.
And Regan, I know that visit theafterlife.com.
Yeah, I'll try to make it quick. But for people watching, there's now a way for anybody. In other words, if you can go to sleep, you can get in a deep hypnotic state. When you wake up in the morning and you go to sleep, you're in that state. I'm a trained facilitator through the Newton Institute, and there's about 250 of us now around the world in 40 countries. And if you want to experience going to a past life, seeing yourself pass away, meeting your guides or whoever's there to meet you when you pass away, and then going to heaven where you can have questions answered that you prepare ahead of time, see relatives that have passed away. It's like being your own medium. Like Natasha can help you with that because she can see things there.
I do that with almost every session I do within reason. It depends on what the intention of the session is.
Very similar stuff here. So anyway, if you go to my website, Visit the Afterlife, there's videos and everything on there, talk all about it. Some of the work could be done on Zoom. Even like past life regression is pretty easy to do on Zoom. The other, it's kind of better to be in person, but we just shown this last week that it can be done over Zoom, even where you can visit heaven and go to heaven and back. So we're in a new era right now, and the other side wants to really shake everybody up here to let them know that the other side is nearer than you think, and there's more you can do and get help from the other side than you even thought was possible. And so go to Visit the Afterlife, watch the videos on there. If you need some help, let me know. Also, I deal with traditional therapy with trauma, fears, phobias, things like that.
He's really good. They're both really good at what they do. And for what I do, this is my Independence Report. Please subscribe and like it so that we can have more people listen to it and all that kind of good stuff, because it's got value. The type of stuff that we do here, every episode that we do has got something for somebody.
Yeah.
And I just love that about
what's coming up, Kevin.
I haven't got like on my Independence Report.
Yeah.
Oh hell, I don't know. I got all kinds. I've got like 12 podcasts this week, and 11 next week. They're all about, right now I'm kind of heavy into authors, but they're all about positivity and wonderful things that you can do to change your life. We had 3 of them on yesterday that were just weren't they good?
Yeah, they were very good. Yeah. And
we had a marriage counselor therapist, and she was just awesome. So it's a fun show. Please listen to the numbers are going great, by the way. Just so you know, so we get to hang around and do this more.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Anybody got anything else to say?
Nope.
Start loving yourselves, because we're human, and sometimes we get things wrong and sometimes we get things right, and it's just about saying okay and moving forward.
Yeah.
Just try to love.
And we'll see you next time on my Independence Report. Hey, and thanks for listening to this episode all the way to the end. Hey, pretty cool. Hey, don't forget to follow us so you can receive regular updates and new posts. And remember, take care of each other, because each other's all we got. See you next time on my Independence Report.